¿Qué tal, chicos? Muy buenas a todos. Soy Zat, bienvenidos a mi canal y a... Bueno, digamos que no sé si se dará para un capítulo o para varios, ¿vale? Pero vamos a jugar a The Stanley Parable, o ya bueno, ya lo estáis viendo en pantalla. Vamos a poner, estás jugando The Stanley Parable, ¿vale? Vale, vamos a jugar a este juego que decía que no sé si será el capítulo o el primer capítulo porque dicen, o me han contado al menos, que es un juego tremendamente corto. O también depende de lo que hagas, ¿vale? Puede ser más corto o más largo. Entonces ya veremos, ¿vale? Pero bueno, en teoría podría ser un juego de un día y se acabó. Así que bueno, vamos a empezar sin más dilación y a ver qué nos muestra o a ver de qué va. Me han dicho que es un juego tremendamente raro, pero muy raro, hasta el punto de desesperar. Así que a ver qué pasa.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-ending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Madre mía, qué horror.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Vale. Bueno, entonces al parecer Stanley es un trabajador en una empresa... no sé todavía muy bien para qué hace. Y entonces hace rigurosamente su trabajo, que es presionar varias teclas siempre y seguir órdenes siempre y demás. Y un día se encuentra con que nadie le está pidiendo nada, que haga nada, no hay órdenes ni... y entonces se raya. Entonces veo que el teléfono como que tiene una llamada, pero no parece que no me dejan hacer nada, solo me dejan moverme, así que vamos a movernos. Aquí nada.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Bueno, parece que en cierto modo lo que se intenta también es que nosotros hagamos exactamente lo que el narrador va diciendo. O eso quiero entender yo. Pero bueno, no hay trabajadores, o sea, no hay compañeros, entonces quiere el narrador que vayamos a la meeting room, a la sala de reuniones y miremos por si hay alguien allí. Pero... sinceramente...
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Vale. Vale. Y con botón izquierdo se abre y se cierra las puertas. No se abre ninguna, así que por aquí tampoco. Bueno, pues nada. ¡Qué
When
rayada!
Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Oh, no. Pues voy a ir por la derecha.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Oh, no. Vale, o sea, teniendo en cuenta eso, que el pobre Stanley siempre estaba a expensas de lo que le ordenaran, vamos a intentar ser un poco rebeldes y vamos a intentar ir un poco a contracorriente. Eso puede ser bueno, puede ser malo, no tengo ni idea. A ver qué pasa.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
¿O no? Insisto. Uy, perdón. Vaya, usted me ha entrado de repente.
Yes, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly... But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Su primera puerta a la izquierda, abierta. Pues una vez más no vamos a hacer ni puto caso. No sé qué hay por aquí, no lo sé. A ver.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Pues sí, somos malos siguiendo instrucciones, tío. No nos gusta que nos den órdenes. Vale, hemos llegado a una especie de almacén. Eso está cerrado. Necesito una tarjeta de seguridad.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here.
Bueno, ahí hay una puerta abierta.
Really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
¿Por quién? ¿Quién es ella?
Stanley, your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Esperando para aquí. Qué oscuro está todo.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this, to reach out to her. If you can truly place your...
Y... ¿Qué?
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
What?
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife?
Ah.
Who want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
¿O no?
Sorry,
Oh.
but you're in my story now.
Vale, bueno, parece que esta vez no tenemos escapatoria. Vale, tenemos el maniquí siniestro. Se nos ha cerrado la
This is a
puerta.
very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Buenos días, empleado 427. Presione K en su teclado. Pues...
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Por favor, presione V. Pues voy a presionar F, porque me sale el pene y no pasa nada. Bueno, pues nada, V.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do.
Porque no me dejas otra
Now
opción.
he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Pues vale.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly. So he went further. He
Madre mía.
imagined that he came to two open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Bueno, pues nada.
As he wandered through this fantasy
Cada vez nos van
world,
quitando más
he
muebles en
began
la
to fill it
cocina.
with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions, and down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
Bueno, pues nada.
And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it. You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Para cuestionar nada. Si presiona otra cosa no me dice nada, así que tiene que
Suppose
ser.
I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again.
Por favor,
Stanley
muera.
pushed a button.
¿Cómo?
And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
What? ¿Qué ha pasado? ¿Qué ha pasado? ¡He palmado! O sea que...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it
Vale,
mean?
bueno, pues nada, pues
Stanley
parece
decided
ser
to go
que
to the meeting.
esas
Perhaps
elecciones
he
que
had simply
tomen
missed a
no
memo.
es que
No matter how hard
no es que
Stanley
fueran
wrote,
las correctas,
he
no, es
couldn't
que
find a
simplemente
trace of his co-workers.
me matan al final por hacer eso. Pues nada, vamos a seguir ahora esta vez las...
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office.
Esta
but it
vamos a
didn't
seguir las
make a
instrucciones, yo
single
que sé.
difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Es que... Awaiting... Uy, me he subido encima. Input received. No sé. Uy. Bueno, pues nada. Bueno, insisto, a
When
ver,
Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
vamos esta vez por la izquierda como él dice. Y a ver qué pasa.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Vamos a ver.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Oh, esta vez voy a bajar. A lo mejor puedo escapar. Oh,
But
coche.
Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all. None of
Esto
it
es un
made
bucle.
any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down?
Oh,
Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went?
Es verdad.
And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar.
Hombre, como que es un bucle.
No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream.
¡Qué cabrones!
Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield.
Tío, deja de narrar, vale, estoy en un bucle.
It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up.
What the...
How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
Sí, es una buena pregunta.
Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams,
Madre mía.
the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life.
No me voy a mover.
Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up.
Madre mía, o sea que hemos muerto otra vez.
The weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside
Sí,
this
lo que yo
world.
te digo, vamos a aparecer otra vez.
Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want.
¿Eh?
I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine.
Madre mía, qué rayada, por Dios.
I am okay.
Pero estamos aquí todavía.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real.
está poniendo todo rojo.
Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Madre mía, madre mía. ¿Y ahora
This
qué?
is the story of a woman named Mariella.
What? ¿Ahora una
Mariella
mujer?
woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work.
¿Qué ha
But
pasado?
on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But
Pero
then
vamos
she
a ver,
remembered the
pero-
meeting she
pero-
had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career.
Pero ¿cómo
and by
hemos llegado
extension,
aquí?
the rest of her life. She had no time for this. So it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Pero si estábamos en un puto sótano, ¿pero qué me estás contando? La madre que me parió. La madre que me parió. Bueno, pues nada, estoy flipando. Vamos a ver. Esta vez ya sí que sí. Vamos a seguir escrupulosamente las...
All of his co-workers were gone.
Sí,
What
ya lo
could it
sé.
mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
Sí.
Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Vamos a ir a piñón fijo. A ver, venga, habitación de las dos direcciones.
When Stanley came to a set of two
Izquierda.
open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Sí. Vale. Y entonces llegamos a la meeting room.
Yet
Perfecto.
there was not a single person
No hay
here
nadie aquí,
either.
así que seguimos.
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office.
Bueno, pues vamos
Coming to
arriba
a
esta vez.
staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
A ver. Ok, vale, pues estamos. Tampoco está la secretaria, supongo. Y dentro de... Joder, parece el despacho del señor Vance. Literalmente. A ver.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2845. But of
2845.
course, Stanley
Two-
couldn't possibly have known this.
Ay, a ver, por favor. 2845.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code.
Bueno,
by
me lo has
sheer
dicho tú,
luck.
pero vale, sí.
Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
No- Oh, está ahí, vale. Bueno, otro... Oh, no, otra vez no. Rayada no. No quiero estar otra vez en bucle. O sea, estoy hasta el rabo. A ver. Esto parece que baja hacia abajo. ¿Hacia abajo a dónde? Como volvamos otra vez a las putas sótanos, me cabreo. ¿Y ahora qué?
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Vale, pues entonces Stanley se está planteando por qué leches hacía lo que hacía en el curro. Lógico, porque no tiene ningún sentido. Y estamos
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
como que las instalaciones de control mental, escape, bueno, o salida. A ver, podemos ir literalmente hacia donde nos dice él o podemos intentar escapar. Si intentamos escapar, me va a dar que vamos a morir otra vez. Si por lo contrario intentamos ir a la zona de... A ver, siempre podemos seguir lo estipulado. Vamos a escapar.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Joder. Pues volvemos. O a lo mejor está mintiendo. ¿Qué hacemos? Que les den. Vamos al fondo y se acabó. Y si palmamos, hemos palmado. Siempre podemos volver otra vez a intentarlo. A ver. Se
The
acaba.
door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Sí, la oportunidad la tenemos, pero a mí no me da la gana y ya está.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
No me lo creo. ¿Y qué pasa si salto? Ah, pues sí, no. Literalmente sí, era palmar. Vale, vale, bien, vale, pues hemos muerto una tercera vez. Bueno, pues nada, guay, fácilmente. Ah, no, que seguimos cayendo. Bueno, a lo mejor he hablado muy rápido.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his
Oh.
life had been of no consequence
No.
whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of
No,
what this
quiero
world
salir de
is.
aquí.
Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plugging the eyeballs
No,
from a
salta.
blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end.
Pero ¿por qué no te
to his
mueves?
privileged
Eres lerdo.
life. Farewell, Stanley.
Dios. 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 Ah. Se acabó. No.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated, as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Qué descriptivo. En- pe- The Stanley's Parable.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as
Oh, no me
alive
jodas
as
otra
ever.
vez.
What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish?
¿Y si me voy por la oscuridad? No se permite. Uy, qué blanco todo.
When every path you can
Uy,
walk
está
has been
cerrado.
created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Stanley's Computer. Uf, todos los mapas o... ¿Qué es esto? ¿Como una especie de resumen de su vida? The Office. Sonidos de botones. Pues vale. Por aquí, ¿qué hay? Por allí. Por allí hay otra escalera. Y una fotocopiadora. Y por allí, ¿qué hay? Vale, pues parece que es la misma escalera, pero aquí hay como una especie de pasillo hacia otro lado. Y otra escalera. ¿Esto es el narrador? Pues vale. Vale. Vamos a volver otra vez y... Yo qué sé. Subamos a ver y... ¿Qué nos encontramos? Es que no tengo ni idea. Vale, tenemos aquí... no sé. Monitor Room Elevator. Aquí tenemos otro... Pero... ¿Y allí qué hay? Más puestos. Es como una especie de museo sobre nosotros. O sea, no sé, es muy raro todo. ¿Por qué el contador? No entiendo nada. Pues vamos a mirar qué hay por aquí. On y off.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen.
Pero ver qué.
But listen to me. You
Otra
can
vez.
still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you.
No sé
Don't
qué
let
hacer.
time
¡Ah! Estamos muertos. Esta vez ya sí. Volvemos otra vez a aparecer en la oficina, supongo. No entiendo nada. No entiendo nada. Hola, ¿qué pasa? Estoy muy confuso. ¿Y ahora qué? ¿Estamos muertos o qué? No entiendo nada. No entiendo nada. Nada, nada, nada. Bueno, chicos, yo qué sé, lo vamos a dejar aquí. O no sé si es que se ha bugueado el juego. Volver a comenzar la partida. No, pues hemos debido palmar y punto. No sé. No sé, en fin. No sé si vosotros habéis entendido algo. Yo no me he enterado absolutamente de nada. Básicamente que el pavo se da cuenta de que su trabajo es una mierda y que nadie le da órdenes y que eso le raya y sale a la aventura. Pero si no sé qué es lo que te dice el narrador, acabas muriendo sí o sí siempre. Al final lo que pasa es que no hemos seguido exactamente lo que nos decía el narrador, pero bueno. En fin, no sé. Yo no sé. No sé. O sea, si reanudamos no pasa nada. Es que no pasa nada. Pues vamos a volver a comenzarla, pero... Bueno, en fin, da igual, yo qué sé. Sinceramente, no sé si habrá más... Habrá más posibilidades o no. Creo que no sé. Intentamos seguir las normas, o sea, las reglas. Esta vez ya sí que prometo que no me distraigo.
But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure.
Me ha cerrado la puerta.
What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No. This couldn't go anywhere except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever.
No.
I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed. Then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come.
No.
Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer.
Ay, qué
Here it
pesado.
comes.
Oh. Bueno, ya habéis visto que otra posible opción es no salir de la habitación. Esto no tiene sentido. Vamos a seguir corriendo. Venga, vamos a ver,
All of his
corramos.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
No sabemos la
Stanley
ruta.
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Yo, no sé, yo estoy
When
confuso.
Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Sí, es igual. Ahora subiremos la escalera para ir a ver al jefe, lo sé. No hay nadie en la meeting room, no.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming
Vale.
to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
A ver.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life.
Venga, dime el
What
código.
could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk. pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Sí, ya tenemos abierta eso otra vez. Vamos a ver si esta vez vamos a ir por el camino, bueno, el camino correcto entre comillas. Seguramente acabaremos muertos también, o sea que es que tampoco tiene mucha solución el tema. A ver, venga. Vale, bueno, pues esta vez vamos a ir por el camino que se marca. Vale, pues la de Mind Control. Pues nada, que nos controle la mente.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
A ver, yo que sé, vamos a ver si tenemos la fuerza como dice él. Yo que sé. Yo ya estoy siguiendo esto para ver si nos llega a algún lado. Ah, espera, aquí hay otra.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Vale.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
No.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Mind control idle awaiting input. O sea, el sistema de control está ocioso y esperando una nueva entrada o algo así. Bueno, pues la tipa.
Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted?
Pantallazo.
Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start.
Por allí hay una
What's
puerta.
that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated.
Cabrón.
All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite
Deja de darme el
rich. I almost
coñazo.
hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock, why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees.
¿Pero qué quieres que haga?
Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley?
Por
That this
Dios.
video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley,
Dios.
you're in for quite a disappointment.
Menos un
But
minuto.
here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble.
Uy.
This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine.
Bueno, pues nada, a
I'm
ver.
going to destroy
¿Explotamos
it
o qué?
first, so you can't.
Allí hay una puerta, espérate, a lo
Take
mejor
a
puedo
look at
subir
the
por
clock,
allí.
Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds
huevos?
until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling
Hasta luego,
desperately
Anthology.
to your
Joder.
life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke.
A lo mejor
And
aquí.
believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in
No, ya
until
está.
the moment I
Se
say
acabó.
happily ever after.
Bueno, pues nada, hemos hecho pa y hemos palmado. Se acabó. Mi aguante se acabó. No, no da para más. Ya está. Fin. Sí. Volveremos a entrar otra vez en la... En fin, chicos, espero que os haya gustado mucho este capítulo. Yo ya no puedo más. Me voy a suicidar si sigo jugando. De verdad, no puedo. No, que te den. Me voy a quedar aquí. Para que no me cierre la puerta otra vez.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Vete a cagar. A ver, espero que os haya gustado
Stanley
mucho este
decided to go to
capítulo.
the
Bueno,
meeting
este
room. Perhaps he
este
had simply
mini
missed a memo.
juego, o sea lo que sea, esto, no tengo ni idea, ¿vale? Madre mía, que si os ha gustado recordad darle a like y que en los comentarios, yo que sé, que me digáis qué opináis o por dónde habríais ido, dónde está la salida, Dios mío, en fin. Y bueno, pues nada, si os ha gustado y sois nuevos, pues suscribíos y ya nos vemos en el próximo juego, o no sé si llamará esto juego, ya nos vemos en la próxima, lo que sea que hagamos el próximo domingo, ya veremos. Y nos vemos, hasta luego.